Inequality, gender inequality, is not okay in any way, shape or form, and I believe it's time our world started to realise this. My name is Rosie Carter. I am a woman, and ever since I was young, I have believed in gender equality. And now that I have the chance to speak out, I really want my voice to be heard. Every time that we marginalise women's rights, we lose the chance to free millions of men, women, and children from poor conditions and inequality around the world. Gender norms and roles have been created due to traditions and our ancestors, and they are therefore creating a barrier for men and women alike. Women can expect to earn significantly less over their entire careers. This is due to differences in caring responsibilities, low-skilled and low-paid work, the qualifications women acquire, and outright discrimination. The current wage gap is 13.9%. And although many of you might think of this as a minor issue in the grand scheme of things, I see it as an issue that shouldn't exist in today's society. Over 62 million girls are denied an education every year. This leaves them without opportunities and unable to see their full potential. Take Malala's story. Malala was a young girl who, as a child, became an advocate for the right that all girls should get an education. This resulted in the Taliban issuing a death threat against her. She was only a child. Malala demanded that girls were to receive an education, which resulted in a gunman shooting her on her way home from school. She was lucky enough to survive, going on to be the youngest person to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Malala is a perfect example of how a single person can influence millions of others. In 16 years' time, 15.5 million girls will be married as children, many pregnant before their late teenage years and most dying giving birth. 1 in 7 girls will be married as children in developing countries, all of them by the age of 15. Once they are married, their freedom is taken away from them. Freedom, a thing many of us take for granted. Girls in Guatemala last year were only given this freedom when the marriage age was raised to 18. And throughout my life, I have seen myself as extremely lucky. Despite being called weak, bossy, or various other names for being a confident young female, my gender has never caused me any great distress. I have not been loved any less because I'm a daughter, and my parents have never treated me any differently to my brother. And although most of you might think, well, women have it worse, that's the way it's always been, you're wrong. Suicide is the highest cause of death for men in the UK and Australia, caused by stereotypes and perceptions they are meant to fit in. As you can see in this graph, elderly men are 3 times more likely to commit suicide than young men, and almost 7 to 8 times more likely to commit suicide than women. I believe that men in this day and age should be able to communicate and express their emotions instead of being oppressed by the patriarchy as well. And in today's society, there is an unknown obsession with putting people wearing pink or showing their emotions and labelling them gay, weak, or worse. Both genders are trapped in this vicious cycle of inequality. Male privilege is clearly shown in the story from Australia. This young man, he went through several honours to get his PhD, and all 7 in his field were only available to women. His honours and PhD went to waste when he was refused the job and refused his dream. He was discriminated against. Many men may face discrimination or disapproval when taking on career paths, caring responsibilities, and activities traditionally reserved for women. For example, men account for only 5% of the early childhood education and care workforce and are radically underrepresented in the maternal, child, and health workforce. This creates challenges for men seeking out careers in these industries. While many men want to take more equal responsibility in caring for children and teaching and other things like that, workplace practices often prevent or discourage them from taking extended parental leave or from working flexibly. So what can we do to change? Well, by working with charities, we can stop child marriage and gain an education for girls worldwide. By working with charities, we can lower the rates of suicides and remove those labels. And by working with the workforce and together, we can gain equal access into jobs and into equal pay. By working together, we can gain a gender-equal society. Thank you for listening.
You did it.
Yeah.
Rosie, standing there watching you talk and listening to you, I think of when I was younger, and the only brown person on TV when I was younger was a guy called Derek Griffiths. I don't know if you're old enough for Animal Magic. I thought he was my dad because he was the only face I could see. And as we kind of go through life sometimes, there's a saying that says, you can't be what you don't see. And I always think as well, if you can't see it, then be the first. And I'm always really interested in, as a young woman, when you look at society, when you look at people in power, politicians, do you see a future where it's not a big thing? Like if a woman gets elected to Parliament, it's not a big thing. Or do you think it will always be an enormous difference when that balance will always be there?
Well, obviously at the moment, when a woman's elected, people who believe in gender equality are always very excited and happy about it. But in the future, I hope that it will just be a regular thing where both genders are equal, because that's what it should be.
Yeah. And it feels at the moment like diversity is kind of a choice sometimes, when actually it's the nature. 50% of the world are female. So what do you want to do for you? Do you feel that any of your dreams could be held back because you're female? Or do you feel that actually I'm going to do this, and if I'm the first doing it, then I'll be the first doing it?
Well, personally, I want to be a psychologist, and I know there's already many female psychologists, so that's not limited to me personally, but I believe that many other people will have to overcome the obstacle of being discriminated against, because at the moment there's set standards people should reach, and I think those standards need to be removed.
So do I. You're incredible. Thank you so much for standing here and sharing that. Ladies and gentlemen, Rosie Carter.
Thank you.
Well done, my darling.
Thank you.